They all stopped speaking the moment I walked into the room. The email chain I'd sent at 8 a.m. was still open on the projector screen. Deadlines highlighted in red, overdue tasks flagged like warning signs. I felt their eyes drill into my back as I cleared my throat and said, "Morning, everyone," but my voice trembled more than I expected. Their silence was deafening. I wasn't always this person, the one they whispered about in the break room, the one they avoided in the hallway. 6 months ago, I'd been the easygoing project manager who cracked jokes during status meetings, who stayed late only when necessary, who let small delays slide because I believed relationships mattered more than schedules. But then our biggest client handed us a six-figure contract with a launch date carved in stone. The stakes went from high to stratospheric overnight, and I knew that if we missed our milestones, someone would get burned, in reputation, in trust, maybe even in their careers. So I changed. I started sending daily reminders. I updated the Gantt chart every morning before sunrise. I scheduled check-ins with every team member, sometimes twice a day. My phone buzzed at all hours, and I answered because someone had to. I enforced deadlines with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker. No more fudging, no more leniency. The project timeline became my Bible. At first, it worked. Tasks that usually drifted measured weeks ahead got wrapped up days early. The client praised our responsiveness. Upper management applauded our discipline. I felt a surge of pride and relief. But then the whispers began. It started with small things. Sarah stopped adding her funny gifs to the group chat. Mark stopped saying good morning. Even quiet Sam, who barely spoke at all, seemed to tense up whenever I walked by his desk. I noticed late-night Slack messages that vanished when I logged in. I heard muffled laughter behind closed office doors. And worst of all, I was leaking anxiety like a broken faucet, so I should have seen the signs earlier. That morning, when I clicked the slide to project status, their reactions told the whole story. Sarah's lips pressed into a thin line. Mark folded his arms. Sam's gaze darted between me and the screen as though bracing for impact. For a moment, I wondered if they were angry at me or just terrified. I took a deep breath and dove in. We're a week behind on the UI mockups, 2 days behind on back-end integration, and our first round of QA is scheduled tomorrow. If we don't hit these cutoffs, the client launch will slip. My voice sounded brittle, even to my own ears. Nobody challenged me. Nobody asked questions. They sat there, heads bowed, typing furiously on laptops, as if burying themselves in code would block my words from reaching them. The tension was so thick, I could taste it. After the meeting, I stayed behind to collect my notes. I overheard a snippet of conversation as I passed the engineer's table. "He's driving us crazy." Yeah, like we're machines, not people. Remember when project managers used to have sympathy? It stung, but I brushed it off. I told myself that they'd come around once they saw progress, that they'd appreciate the structure when we finally delivered. I closed my laptop and headed to my office, only to find a sticky note on my door. "We need to talk." The team. Inside, 5 faces stared at me. Sarah, Mark, Sam, Jess, and Tyler. No one else. The others hovered just outside. "Take a seat," I said, gesturing to the meeting table. My voice cracked, and I realized I was shaking. They sat. Silence stretched between us, heavy enough to sink a ship. Finally, Sarah spoke. "We feel overwhelmed, choked." Her voice trembled as if the words were trying to break free. "We're not robots. Deadlines are important, sure, but we can't breathe with you on our backs every minute." Mark leaned forward. "We used to have trust, maybe some flexibility. Now it's like you don't believe in us at all." His words cut deeper than he knew. I wanted to explain that I believed in them so much that I refused to see us fail, but the words caught in my throat. Jess, the newest hire, swallowed hard. "I got here at 6 last night because you sent that Slack reminder. I had dinner with my family at 4, but you had a comment at 5:30 saying, 'Status update, please.' I can't separate work and life anymore." Tyler tapped the table. His voice was quiet but firm. We want to succeed. We want this project to shine, but you're burning us out. You've lost sight of why we're a team." I sank into my chair, stunned. My vision of success had blinded me to the people who made success possible. I opened my mouth several times, each time stalling, until finally I whispered, I'm sorry." That single phrase felt small, but in that moment, it was the hardest thing I'd ever said. We spent the next hour hashing out new ground rules. No messages after 7 p.m., a single weekly check-in instead of daily, a shared calendar with realistic time estimates, and, most importantly, mutual respect. They promised to hit milestones, I promised to trust them. For a few days, things improved. The mood lightened up, Sarah cracked jokes again, Mark's good morning returned. Even Sam smiled when I walked by. Productivity ticked up. But 2 weeks later, the client called. Their brand designer demanded changes that rippled through our timeline. Suddenly, our buffer evaporated. I found myself scrambling to reschedule, nudging people, sending urgent pings. And then I received an anonymous survey result. Manager's kindness appreciated, but projects still behind. My heart sank. My team still felt smothered, even though we'd agreed on the new rules. What had I missed? I realized that a single apology and a policy memo couldn't heal what had fractured. Trust is delicate. Once cracked, it needs continuous care. I decided to pull back. But how much? That evening, I sat alone in the empty office, staring at the timeline on my second monitor. Every task glowed in soft pastels, no more red flags. It looked almost peaceful. I closed my eyes and recalled the moment they voted to confront me. Their words replayed in my mind. "We feel overwhelmed. You're burning us out. Lost sight of why we're a team." I opened my eyes and drafted a new plan. A plan that balanced accountability with empathy. I would still hold them to deadlines, but I'd carve out breathing room. Midweek check-ins that prioritize roadblocks over reproach, bi-weekly brainstorming sessions with no agenda, and a rotating deadline guardian role so that responsibility and the pressure was shared. The next morning, I stood before them again. I felt the familiar tremor of nerves, but also something new, humility. "I've learned a lot these past weeks," I began. "We've missed deadlines, we've stressed out, and I've played a part in that. So starting today, we're trying a new approach. We will set our own checkpoints. We will choose our guardian each sprint, and we will hold each other and myself accountable with kindness." Their eyes widened. Sarah gave a small nod. Mark exhaled as if a weight had lifted. I continued. "I want to trust you because I believe you're capable. Let's prove it together." For the first time in weeks, the room felt alive. They responded with questions instead of silence. They debated realistic buffer times. They volunteered for the guardian role. And when I left the room, I realized that leadership isn't about wielding power. It's about empowering others to own the vision. But this is only half the story. Because even with the best intentions, the path to redemption isn't linear. There will be setbacks, surprises, and moments that test our resolve. In the next part, you'll see how one unexpected crisis pushes us to the brink, and what choices I make when the team's trust hangs by a thread. Stay with me. The next morning, an urgent ping shattered the calm just as the team gathered for our redesigned kickoff meeting. The client had discovered a critical design flaw in the first build, and they needed a fully tested fix by the end of the day. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Our carefully rebuilt buffer had vanished, and for a fleeting second, I felt the old impulse to tighten the reins. But then I remembered, this wasn't about imposing control. It was about enabling my teammates to shine. "All right," I began, drawing a steady breath. "Here's our plan." I sketched 3 columns on the whiteboard: squad assignments, check-in schedule, and escalation protocol. First, we're splitting into 2 cross-functional squads. Squad A will tackle the UI redesign. Sarah, you're guardian for that. Coordination of design, prototyping, and QA. Squad B will own the back-end validation and deployment. Mark, you'll guardian that. ensuring test coverage and merge readiness. Sam, you'll rotate between both squads as our blocker hunter, flagging any issues that need immediate team support. Heads nodded, pen scratching. I added, second, stand-ups today will be razor-focused, 9:30, 11, 14, and 16. Each check-in lasts no longer than 10 minutes, with 3 bullet points. Done, next, blocked. If you're blocked, hit the red buzzer on my desk and we'll drop everything to help. A murmur of approval spread. They liked having clear structure without feeling micromanaged. I continued, third, in the event of a showstopper, we invoke the red card protocol. Everyone pauses non-essential tasks and swarms the issue until it's resolved or a new plan is in place. No email threads, no long Slack chains, real-time collaboration in this room. As I spoke, I watched their expressions shift from tension to determination. I could feel their ownership returning. By 11 a.m., Squad A had a revamped modal ready for user testing. Squad B had isolated the malformed API call and drafted a hotfix script. At each stand-up, they reported crisp progress. UI patch at 80%, QA in 30 minutes. Back-end fix passed smoke tests, deployment and staging. The buzz of focused energy filled the air. Around 2 p.m., Sam raised his hand. We've got a blocker. The staging environment is running out of memory under load. Immediately, the red card protocol kicked in. Developers, QA, and even our DevOps consultant piled in. Within 45 minutes, we spun up a temporary instance and rerouted traffic for testing. No finger-pointing, just collective problem-solving. At 4 p.m., our final stand-up concluded with both fixes greenlit. We merged branches at 4:15, deployed to production at 4:45, and by 5:10, the client had signed off. Looks perfect, great turnaround. The room erupted in relief and cheers. People high-fived and laughed, something I hadn't heard in weeks. The tension that once knotted their shoulders had melted into camaraderie. Later that evening, as the office emptied, Jess approached my desk. "I want to thank you," she said softly. "Today felt different. You trusted us to own the work, and it motivated everyone to step up." Her words hit me. This was the payoff I'd been chasing. Not perfect timelines, but a team that believed in itself. I sent one final Slack message before logging off. Today we faced our toughest challenge, and we nailed it together. Proud to call you my team. Enjoy your evening. I watched their read receipts pop up one by one. In that moment, I knew we'd rebuilt something deeper than a process. We'd forged genuine trust and mutual respect. Of course, this isn't the end of our story. Tomorrow, new challenges will surface. Unexpected client feedback, shifting priorities, or resource constraints. But now we have a blueprint. Clear roles, streamlined communication, and a shared commitment to lift each other up. And armed with that, I'm confident we can face whatever comes next, together.